This is the Aptitude Outdoors Podcast, where we interview travelers, explorers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the best tips and stories from around the world. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Aptitude Outdoors Podcast here on YouTube. Thanks for tuning back in. If you can, go down below and hit that subscribe button. I'd like to welcome tonight Tim Garland, host of the Trail Connection podcast. He is a native Floridian, and we are here in his home state checking it out. So if you can, go over and follow him on social media, and let's dive right into it and talk to Tim. Yeah, so Tim, we were supposed to do like a joint release podcast, but you put yours out like a long time ago. And then I was like, you know what? I was literally just in Florida. So I figured we could like reshoot this and then kind of like give a new perspective on what we talked about on your podcast, The Trail Connection, which everyone should go listen to, obviously, because it's awesome. So before we dive into stuff, how have you been, man? I haven't talked to you in quite a while other than chatting on Instagram.
Yeah, man, been doing good. Obviously, we're not as in sync as we thought, because I put mine out way early, and then you came to Florida and didn't even tell me. Like, we could have done this in person.
I know. I'm terrible at planning. If you haven't figured that out yet,
it's all good, man. It's all good. But yeah, I've kind of been laying low, dude. I put out that episode that we did a few months ago, and we just had a lot going on with family, and I had a brother-in-law get married, celebrated my 10-year wedding anniversary. Took a couple trips to North Carolina, and my wife and I are gearing up to buy our home. So it's a lot. There's a lot going on.
Congrats on that, man. That sounds like a good time. Before when I was on your podcast, I didn't have a clue about Florida, but I recently spent a week there, and I tried to do as much cool stuff as possible in Florida. And that it consisted of going on an airboat ride and going fishing in the ocean. I learned a lot. When we talked in your podcast, I was like, man, I'm terrified of alligators. I want nothing to do with alligators. They freak me out. And then I got down there, and I was asking a bunch of questions to like the airboat guides and everybody I'd run into. Went down to the Everglades for a day, and I was like, hey, you know, these alligators, I'm from Ohio, dude. Alligators, scary. I don't want anything to do with them. They're pretty much like naturally scared of you. If you don't screw with them, they're pretty much just going to leave you alone.
I think I heard somebody say that.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Yeah. You quelled my fears. But it's super,
yeah.
They're so much bigger than you think they are, like just chilling in the Everglades.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially if you roll up on one that's anywhere from like 8 to 10 foot. Like, that doesn't sound like it's that big, but an 8 to 10 foot gator is like a monster. Like, especially if you've never seen one that close before, it'll scare you for sure. So,
yeah.
But congratulations, you are a stereotypical Floridian now, because you've done everything that everybody does in Florida. So,
well, you know, I'm not the kind of guy, like, I'm not a let's go chill on the beach and like lay around all day. Like, that drives me insane. I would rather do all the stuff. And I figured going on an airboat, I've never done that before. I've been to Florida a ton of times, but I've always just done like the tourist, like Disney World kind of stuff. And then this time, after, you know, hiking and backpacking and kayaking, all this stuff that I've grown into, I've kind of like sought out those new experiences. And I don't know, is that like something that people in Florida actually do, is go on airboats, or is that just like in the Everglades?
Yeah. No, that's absolutely like pretty common. We got a ton of lakes spread out all over the state. You know, I mean, the Everglades is swamp, so it's real low land, and so that's like how they get around, because you skip across, you know, shallow water and land back on the water. But I mean, I know a ton of people that own airboats, and they prefer those, especially like we talked last time about gator hunting. I got a bunch of friends that use airboats when they go gator hunting, which is, it's super annoying because they're so loud, but like it is, you can just get up in a lot thicker brush, like closer to the bank. You can chase them down a lot easier. So, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty common. You know, people down here like to ride those around quite a bit, just because there's so many shallow lakes all around.
One thing that absolutely blew me away down there, I mean, where I come from in Ohio, we're really close to the Great Lakes. I mean, within a few miles. And we are very close to a lot of parks and stuff. And there's a lot of wildlife. But when I was in the Everglades specifically, it was just the amount of animals that I saw was just mind-blowing to me. I think you posted on Instagram the other day a picture of like an otter, or a video of an otter like swimming in. Yeah. Dude, like I didn't know you guys had that much wildlife.
Yeah, it's a ton of stuff, and you wouldn't really think about it. Like you think of Florida, you think of beaches, and you think of like palm trees and stuff like that. But there's a lot of inland brush, swampy type areas, palmettos, pine trees, a lot of sand. So you just got, we have wild boar, we've got deer, we've got otters, the typical, small rodents like raccoons and possums and armadillos and things like that, gopher turtles, all kinds of stuff. There's quite a bit of wildlife down here. And, unless you get out and hit some of those trails, and go to some of these places like the Everglades and some of the different spots like that, you don't really realize how many different types of animals there are down here. And it is cool. It's cool to just kind of like observe them in their natural habitat.
What are some of your favorite animals to check out? I mean, you live there, so that it might just be common, but like the stuff I saw was just like
Yeah. Well, I've talked a little bit on some of my earlier episodes on my podcast about, the spot that I've got behind my house. I like to go back there and just kind of like chill. And I don't hunt back there. It's not allowed to do that. But like just observing animals. I mean, there's this buck that I've been like trailing for a couple years, and I just saw him last year, which was like huge. It was really cool. So just that kind of stuff, just really anything that is just I kind of stumble up onto its habitat, is cool. I'm not a big fan of snakes. I mean, they don't scare me. I'm not like freaked out by them, but I just don't care for them. I think they're pretty disgusting animals. They creep me out. It's not like I've got some deathly scared fear, of them, but I have a healthy respect for them, and they can just do them, and I'll do me.
Well, that's the Everglades specifically has a bunch of creepy crawly things from what I understand. And, I was down there for like a day. So I got like a quick overview of all this stuff. But the thing that surprised me the most is like up here where I'm at. I mean, I'm not like a birder. I'm not like a person who goes out and seeks birds, but like just going on these trips, going on this day outing, the amount of birds that I saw was nuts. I mean, you're on the beach is one thing. There's tons of birds there, but like in the Everglades, dude, I think I got a picture of a hawk. I got a picture of a bunch of different herons. I got like so many different birds that there's some of the same ones we have in Ohio because it's migratory and stuff like that. But I was completely blown away. Like, the wildlife is, I'm sure I touched on like a 0.1% of what you guys have down there. Like, completely blown away. And then like the salt water is a completely different ball game from the fresh water we have up here. There's just so many more animals. And even walking on the beach, my wife was like completely blown away. She's like, oh my God, these birds are catching fish like every 2 seconds. I was like, this is a completely different world from where we're at. So Are you a big fisherman? Are you into like any of the water sports? Because you guys are a water state. You got a lot of water.
We are. I'm pretty ashamed to say that I am not as big of a fisherman as I should be, being a Florida resident.
Same.
I love to freshwater fish. Largemouth bass is a lot of fun. There's a lot of, the company that I work for is kind of located out in Central Florida, but it's got access to a lot of wildlife preserve, and we do a lot of reclamation work once we're done with the land that we use. And there's these areas out there called phosphate pits, and so I've got a membership to our company club to where I can go out there and fish, and there's huge gators in those pits. There's big bass and all kinds of stuff like that, so that's pretty cool. Like I mentioned before, my brother's more of the angler, and he's fishing all the time, saltwater, freshwater. So when I get a chance to go out with him, we'll go out on the boat and ride around the bay and things like that, and do some fishing and saltwater fishing. I've done scalloping before, which is cool. I'm not a big seafood guy. I mean, I like your typical fish, but I'm not like, sucking oysters and stuff like that. Like I'm a texture kind of guy.
Dude, so no, my buddy He was. I told him we were going down to Florida, and he's like, dude, you got to get oysters every day. He's like, when I went down there, we had oysters, and I was like, dude, I am not sucking down a salty booger. There's no way I'm gonna do that. And like, my wife ate them, my dad ate them. I was like, absolutely not. I mean, I'll eat a lot of things, but that is, I mean, usually I'm pretty game for trying stuff too. Like I'm out there, but like they look disgusting. I'm not about that life.
I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. I'm a shellfish guy. I'll eat, crab and shrimp and stuff like that all day. But I can't do like the slimy, boogery stuff, man. It's gross. I can't do it.
It's super disgusting. So last time we talked, you're getting pretty hardcore into backpacking, which is kind of like my background is more backpacking oriented, and one of the things we talked about was doing a potentially in the future. Well, not potentially. We're gonna do it for sure. We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
A video or a combo podcast video, whatever we want to do. We were talking about going and like heading to a Walmart, buying a bunch of gear for. I think we set a price limit at like $100, but it's probably ridiculously. You said like I think you need to recheck the prices of backpacking gear at Walmart. So we'll set a new limit.
Yeah.
So have you done any backpacking trips in the last few months, or overnight camping, or anything like that that's kind of got you more stoked on the outdoors?
Yeah, man, my intentions were so high. I wanted to do another section of the AT, but like I said, we just had so much stuff going on with family. But the trips that I got to take, we kind of took an impromptu family vacation with some neighbor friends of ours, and we took them up to Lake Lure, the cabin that we normally go to. And so we did some day hikes up there, which was really cool. Got some great pictures and stuff like that. And then kind of explored a little bit in the area that I hadn't been to before, up there in the Hendersonville, Chimney Rock area. And then my wife and I went up. Our anniversary is October 1st, which is also my birthday. But because the wedding was kind of close to that, we pushed our anniversary out till November. So in November, we went up to Maggie Valley, and then we hit like Smoky Mountain National Park and hit a bunch of waterfalls and stuff like that. So that was probably more so of like the trip that really got me like on my toes, like ready to go. Because we went to Klingman's Dome, and so her and I took the hike all the way up to the observatory up there, which is really cool. And especially for people who don't have a lot of experience hiking, like that's a super short hike, but it's strenuous because it's like straight up from the parking lot. It's only like a half a mile there and back, but it kind of gives you a taste of the atmosphere of the AT. And like there's obviously it winds up through that area, so like you can kind of go down north or south from that area and just explore a little bit of the AT. So we did some of that, which was really cool. But like I'm into that a lot more than my wife is. She's just kind of coming off of, childbearing, and like she's starting to kind of get her body back and everything. So like whenever we get an opportunity to go on hikes, we got to kind of take it a little slow just because she's not quite ready yet for that. But, we just had a blast doing short little day hikes and things like that, checking out waterfalls. And it's really got me itching to get back up there and go for an extended period of time. So I'm probably going to have to wait until like late January, early February before I can get up there again. I want to do some snow hiking because I've never done that before, but I also don't want to like freeze my nuts off.
Dude,
we'll see.
Yeah, right now where I'm at in Ohio, it's like probably 30 degrees out. So we came from Florida, and everybody down there was freaking out. They're like, dude, it's like 60 degrees down here. It's 55. You texted me, you're like, welcome to unseasonably cold Florida. I was like, dude, this is way better than me in Ohio right now. It was like the low was in the low 40s. That's the coldest week we've had all year so far. Unless you timed it perfectly. And you're like, oh, man, it's nothing. Yeah,
we were like this in July.
we were those people on the beach in like no shirt and shorts, and everybody's wearing like jackets and sweatpants and like looking at us like we're psychopaths. Like definitely those are the tourists right there. Yeah. Like this feels great,
Yankees.
Man. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's that time of the year. All the snowbirds are heading down. It's not surprising.
Yeah.
One thing I was surprised about is like the we rented a charter boat down there. Like, I'm not ashamed to say it. I've interviewed fly fishing. I've interviewed tons of people. I've owned shop owners and stuff. And I think there's like this mentality that like, oh, if you're not out there on your own doing it, you're just a wimp. And, you know, whatever. I have no experience fishing in Florida. I hardly have any experience fishing here. I'm not like a great fisherman. I've just never been that good at it. We rented a charter boat down there, and it was like more inland. It was like still the ocean, but it was like kind of, we were in Fort Myers area, which is like tourist central, but it was like behind their little islands and stuff. And just like the amount of fish we caught in a few hours was just mind blowing to me. I mean, up here we have a ton. One of the things that was hilarious to me is the guide. He's like, yeah, we're going to go out. We're going to catch some sheep's head. We're going to catch some trout. We're going to catch some, you know, probably a couple puffer fish here and there. And just like your Florida species. But where I'm from, there's a fish called sheephead. And it is like the most disgusting, like nobody would ever eat that fish. And I was like, dude, this is going to suck. And he was like, no, where are you from? I was like, we're from Ohio. You know, like I'm used to fishing in Lake Erie. He's like, no, it's not sheephead. It's sheep's head. Like we eat these all day long down here. So have you ever had those?
No, I haven't had those, but my brother gets those all the time, and they've got a freezer stock full of them, man. They love them. But yeah, I mean, to that argument, you know, like I can understand where that's coming from. You know, there's just the whole like, you know, pride of accomplishment when you can do it yourself. But shoot, dude, if you're only in Florida for a week, like the ocean's massive, and I would rather pay somebody that knows exactly where to go and exactly like what spots to hit, so you're guaranteed to catch some fish, because you can literally go out there for 8 hours and not catch a thing. Like I've done that. You know, I mean. You know, and it sucks because there's some times where, like, you know, I'll go out with my brother and he's just like cranking them in like crazy and I don't catch a thing. And it's like, you know, it's fun to ride on the boat, but then I'm over it in like 2 hours if you're not catching fish. So it's worth the money. It's worth like not having the hassle of like trying to learn the area and get familiar with the boat and get familiar with the tides and the currents and all that stuff. I mean, especially when you're in an area like this. I mean, it's different. Charter fishing and fly fishing are totally different games, man. It's like not even a comparison. So I would be a little ashamed of you if you like went fishing on a river down here and was like, I got a John boat charter.
Yeah, I literally just looked it up online. I was like fishing, and I got the cheapest one that I could find. It was awesome though. So as a fellow backpacker, I know you're kind of a gearhead. Have you upgraded recently, or you got any new favorite gear? I know we're heading into winter, which for you Floridians means like still pretty reasonable temperatures. For me, that means 0 degree bags and tents and stuff like that. So you got anything that you upgraded to recently, or anything you're really digging?
I hadn't had a chance to use the tent, the 2-person tent that I had upgraded a while back. I bought one of the Climate Maxfield tents, and I got that in the double insulated inflatable pad, and I hadn't had a chance to take that out, but we pitched that in the tent a couple weeks ago, and I slept in there with my kids, and dude, it's so nice. It really is. It goes up so nice, and the pad is super comfortable. I mean, I had me and 2 of my 4 kids in the tent with me, and like slept like a dream. It was awesome. So I'm super pumped to get that thing out, you know, up in the mountains, but for just a quick like last minute trip, you know, with the kids, it was super cool. But, you know, unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of time to like get out and go. So just to kind of give you a little glimpse, I mentioned all the stuff we had going on. I also started a new position in my company.
Congrats.
And there's just been a lot of different things going on that's really pulled my attention away from my podcast, which is really, it's sad because like I had these grand plans for, you know, the way I wanted to wrap up the year, and I had like 10 more episodes I wanted to crank out. And so probably what I'm going to end up doing is one more final wrap-up episode for 2020. And then I've kind of taken this time that I've been away to kind of revamp some stuff and kind of give a facelift to the show. And so I'm really looking forward to cranking out a lot of fresh content starting in January. And I am planning on being on a more regular pace with that. So I'm just kind of taking the opportunity to do that. And I also I mentioned last time we talked that I've been working on a book. And so I've been working on that quite a bit. So chipping away at that, hoping that I'll get that published next year and we can start talking about that.
Yeah. So on that topic, I mean, I'm a huge reader. Why don't we talked about it when I was in your podcast a little bit, but why don't you tell people that'll be listening on mine about a little bit about what the topic of your book is, kind of what your goals are with that, and why you decided to write a book in the first place? Because I know I can't write for nothing. I'm terrible. I can't write at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm not good at much, but English was kind of one of my strong suits when I was in college and high school. I really liked to write. It's kind of been one of those things that, like, I've always wanted to do. I just thought it'd be cool, to be an author. But I've never had a topic that I felt was worthwhile to, like, fill the pages of a book, and let alone, like, be interesting enough for somebody to read. So, it's kind of been going back and forth for a while, just kind of this pipe dream of, maybe one day I'll write a book. Well, several years ago, I got really, really consumed with my career, and just got to a point where that was like the only thing in life that mattered was making money and advancing my career. And it stressed me out to the max. I kind of hit a breaking point, and took a couple steps back and just realized that I was focusing on all the wrong things. And, and that's having drive and having a strong work ethic is nothing to be ashamed of. But when that is like what consumes your life, then that's a problem. So, I turned to nature to kind of redirect and refocus my energy and my thoughts and everything like that. And I'm more of a entrepreneurial type person. I come from a line of entrepreneurs, and I had my own business before I started at the company I work for now, printing T-shirts. And so I've always kind of had this like entrepreneurial drive. And so I've always taken all my hobbies and turned them into ways of making money because I was obsessed with it. So, when I went through that whole process, it just, it was really inspiring to me to see like that change, whenever you change your perspective and you start taking a step back and like pushing things off your plate. And I just really dove into nature and outdoor activities, backpacking and kayaking, things like that I enjoyed doing growing up, but I never really spent a lot of time or effort into. And so that whole process of kind of diving into something I was familiar with, but I didn't really know a whole lot about, and then learning from other people is just a really cool topic. And to me, like the changes that I personally went through, emotionally and spiritually and all kinds of things like that really, really helped me focus in on my family and me and, things that are most important. And so just that's kind of what the book is about. It's just about a journey from refocusing and kind of getting connected with yourself again. And I use the Appalachian Trail to help myself do that. I wasn't in a position where I could do a through hike, but I had always kind of been one of these people that would like set a goal and then not accomplish it or just kind of quit. And so, learning a lot more about topics that I was interested in and things that I was interested in, and then pursuing a goal of doing a section hike and then actually accomplishing it, like just that whole process was really inspiring to me. So that's kind of what the book is about. It dives into my character and my background a lot early on in the book, and kind of like builds the story up to 2017, which was a real pivotal year for me. And, the 3 years post that, I've been soaking up the outdoors and meeting cool people like you. So that's what the book's about.
I don't know if I'm cool or not, but I'm excited. I hope you can get it out next year, man, because I'd really like to read it. I'm obsessive about books. I mean, I'm a huge audiobook guy, but I still put in a few hours a month, year about regular books. So, I mean, the whole reason I started this podcast was because I wanted to get people outdoors. I mean, I kind of grew up outdoors. I mean, I grew up in a very wooded area. I mean, when I moved there when I was like 7 years old, and my dad bought this giant wooded property, and then it's just kind of like a life transforming thing. So how has nature for you transformed your life? Because I know you said you kind of used it as a retreat, but how has it like really made a difference for you personally?
Well, I mean, the last time that we talked, you kind of pointed out that anybody who listens to my show can, or reads my Facebook post or Instagram post, can tell I'm a pretty deep thinker.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what nature's done for me. It's been able to allow me to look inward and use my mind, use my imagination, really focus on deeper things than just surface level stuff. And, I don't want to try to solve all the world's problems or like think, that I'm some deep psychological person at all. Because I just think I have my own thoughts. Everybody has their own unique perspective on things, and so I just like documenting that. And when I'm outside and when I'm just walking a trail and listening to nature just happen around me, I'm able to focus in on like everybody's just doing their own thing, moving at their own pace. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to move at my own pace. And it just helps me kind of like center my energy and my focus on like, focusing on the here and now, the moment that I'm in now, as opposed to like, I need to get this project done, or I need to get to this salary band, or I need to get like this much money saved up so I can do this, or I can buy this, or I was a very materialistic person, and I still struggle with that. I mean, that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with because, as Americans, we're spoiled brats. But
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
it's one of those things that like when that just consumes your thoughts and your whole motivation for making money and trying to figure out how you can get further ahead or like get more stuff. Like I was just like chasing after the status of, being someone who had a 6-figure salary or whatever you want to put whatever threshold you want on there. I mean, that was me. It was just like, in order to be accomplished and successful and like an adult, I had to be at a certain point. And I wasn't going to be an adult and I wasn't going to be successful until I hit that point. And so like, that's why like right now buying this house is huge for me and my wife. Cause like I'm 32 or 33 years old and I'm just now buying my first home, but that's because I made really bad decisions in college and in high school with, credit cards and things like that. And then just, being materialistic and buying things I couldn't afford. And so again, refocusing and reprioritizing my life it's changed me fundamentally because like I still like stuff. I still want to buy things that I want to experience cool things, but that doesn't make like the top of the list anymore. I've got my wife, I got my 4 kids, I got my home, and I got my like stuff that I like to do. And then everything else is just there. So it's just, for me, it's really important to just continue to go outside and continue to hike and continue to camp and things like that. Because when I'm sleeping under the stars, I mean, there's nothing out there. And you don't bring anything in this world, you're not taking anything out of it. So being in nature reminds me of that because you don't have anything out there. It's just you and the woods. So
yeah. And
hopefully that was a long-winded answer to your question.
No, that was a great answer. I think I'm the same way. I go out into wilderness to kind of get away because I live in this world. I do the 9 to 5. I do the podcast. I do the video. I work on another podcast for a local business. And like, I go out there in the woods. I recently took a good friend of mine on his first backpacking trip. And that, for me, like I've had a ton of outdoors experiences in my life so far. And for me to be able to experience that with other people now was what brings me joy. Because like when I go out, I don't want to, it's not like, I like doing new stuff. Like I did a couple, like 130-mile kayaking trip last year, and that was kind of a new ordeal for me. But like the backpacking thing is kind of like old hat after the AT. Like I still love it. It's still a lot of fun. But like to take other people out to experience that for me is huge. And that's why I'm like so excited to get together with you in the future and go out and do stuff because we can share that experience together. And the outdoors is just like a great place because, okay, I still take my GoPros, I still take my camera, I still take my like a very basic podcasting setup just in case. And like I take like when you walk so far into the wilderness, your phone doesn't work anymore. Like you can't.
Yeah.
It's you and your thoughts. So even if I love camera gear. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say like when I go out in the woods, I'm just by myself with my thoughts. You know, like because that's not. I don't do that. I have like a tough.
Yeah.
But like it allows me to open up into new ways of thinking, and I can say that on camera because I want more people to experience that. And I've noticed this like weird, I don't know if you've noticed it, and it's not like a huge movement, but I've noticed people like trying to prevent other people from like enjoying nature. They're like, this should be for us. People are polluting it. People are trashing it, which sucks. I don't want people trashing nature. I don't want people trashing the backcountry. But I see this like movement of people trying to like dissuade people from going out there, and I hate it so much because like my whole goal is to get more people outdoors.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and a different perspective that I've kind of picked up on is I think these folks are just they're seeing the trendiness of it, and like that's what they're upset about. It's the fact that people are just going out to get like Instagram posts or like get their feed and get some stuff for their feed, and they're not really there for the same reasons, and that sucks because. Who cares? Like if it's getting them outside, it's getting them outside. But at the end of the day, I can definitely like understand that, and I've felt those same types of feelings towards like, if I take someone camping and they're just not as considerate of the area, or like they're not considerate about like being quiet or keeping volume down when like we're trying to enjoy the nature. Like there's talking at the top of their voice, and scaring all the animals away like that. I'm not one of these like leave no trace Nazis where I'm just gonna be like, no, don't touch anything. I do respect the environments, and I do think that it is important for us to like be good stewards of the areas that we're exploring. But at the same token, I mean, it's there for us to enjoy. So if you can't touch it, it's like the example of a lady or a family having a really fancy home with like fancy furniture and stuff that you're not allowed to touch anything, and the kids are miserable because they can't play in their house. It's like it's not a home because there's just these nice things everywhere. That's kind of a stretch for the analogy, but like I think that's the mindset for some of these people. It's like these pristine naturescapes are these people's like perfect home, and they don't want anybody wrecking it. And I get that. I understand that. But excuse me, at the same token, you gotta like expect that not everybody's gonna have the same respect that you do. And I think what's great about this whole like push to get people outdoors, especially during this really crazy and stupid year that we've had, like people they're stuck inside, so they want to get outside, which is awesome. But like all of the bad habits go with that, and so you do see a lot more litter. You do see a lot more people like going off the trails and kind of wrecking stuff. I've heard more stories this year of like stuff in national parks being defaced than I've heard in like the last 5 years, and that's really sad, But at the same token, I just think I don't know, man. It's a tough line to walk because I'm with you. I think probably my favorite episode that I did on my podcast was when I took my buddy Warren camping with me, because he's not a camper. Like taking him out and just giving him like the regular treatment. Like if I go by myself, this is what I do. And then him waking up next morning and be like, man, that was awesome. Like I normally would love to wake up in my own bed, but this was really cool. And this is a cool alternative. I'd be into this kind of thing. That like brought so much joy to my heart because it was genuine, like it's if I can instill love for the outdoors in someone and get them, I'm not saying they have to be as like dedicated or as excited about it as I do, but if I can just get them excited about like going and seeing something neat or like checking out birds or checking out alligators or whatever, like that's cool, like go take some pictures, go soak it up, just take a walk and think. Just, when we talked last time, you talked a lot about your through hike and some of the things that benefited you from that, and being out there with just your mind and your body, there's some really good health benefits to that, like mentally and physically and spiritually, like just to get out and be alone or just be with, a small group of people in nature. So,
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I understand, like you said, where people are coming from with this whole thing, but like like it would be like if when you started really heavily getting into nature, someone being like, "You're doing it wrong. Don't come out here anymore." How, I mean, you're like in it now. Like you love it. You're passionate about it. You know what's right and wrong. But I'm sure, like when I first started getting into the outdoors, I didn't know what I was doing. I was taking hatchets out in the woods on my dad's property and chopping down trees because I saw, movies of guys doing that kind of stuff. I wanted to be a little woodsman, and everybody has to learn. And these are public lands. They're owned by the public. So like these, like you said, leave no trace Nazis. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm all about leave no trace. Like, I don't want to go outside and see toilet paper on the ground and crap piles and garbage everywhere. But like, I'm a huge believer that people will never care about the outdoors until they either have a life-changing like solitude moment in the middle of the wilderness, or they really have a really fun time in the outdoors. And that's how you, in my opinion, that's how you're going to broaden conservation. You're going to get people to donate to conservation. You're going to get people to volunteer. I don't think that telling people not to go outside is a good way to do that. I mean, you have to work through some of the roadblocks, just like with any new change in anything. And like I talked to a professor recently on a college professor. He's an ecology professor. And we talked about how, wilderness is I want to say sort of a myth especially in America, because I mean, we're a heavily populated country. We're a huge population. So all these wild places that are set aside are not technically quote unquote wild. They have trails, they have all these places. So it's not just like you're heading out into the remote wilderness of the Antarctic where there's nothing. Like these are all places. Yeah. And I feel like they belong to all of us, and everybody should have access to them. So it's just kind of a bummer to hear that, but whatever. I can't do anything about it. I want as much people to get outdoors as possible.
Yeah. Well, you made a good point about, the more people that are focused on being outside, the more people will actually care about conservation and things like that. And I totally agree with that. I think that's really admirable. That's something that like we all should achieve. It's not, hey, let's get people into the outdoors so they can just like flood Instagram or Facebook with all these pictures of nature, or, become influencers. It's no, let's get them outside so they can appreciate the land that we live in. This is a great country to live in, not only because of the freedoms, but because of the beauty that we're surrounded by. And like, there's some really crazy places that I've never gotten to experience, but I want to, that like, they're in America, like there's places all over the world that are incredible, but there's a lot of places right here that in our own backyard, that are awesome. So the more people that are aware of that, the more people that are, I guess in tune with the fact that like these lands are protected and they belong to all of us, like we should be enjoying them, and I'm cool with that. I'm game with encouraging people to get outside. Just don't scratch your name on anything.
Yeah, that part does suck. I don't like seeing when people carve stuff, especially in the into like rock and stuff. Like it's not so bad in trees, but I still don't like seeing it. Did you see online where there was some random monument that popped up in like the middle of Utah or something?
Oh, that like tower thing. It looks like a
aliens or something.
It looks like a vape pen.
I thought
there was a jewel in the middle of the desert.
Yeah. People were super mad about somebody like went out there and tore it down like in the middle of the night or something. Yeah. I mean, I understand that they're like defacing public property or whatever, but I thought it was kind of cool. It drew a lot of attention.
It's aliens, bro.
It was definitely aliens. Oh man, we shouldn't have brought that up, because funny story, going back to the Everglades, you probably already know what I'm going to say. We were at where were we? We were on one of the airboat tours, and I was like, I know there's like this weird skunk ape museum down here somewhere. And I was like, all right, I'm going to just Google it. And it literally was a mile from where we were airboating. I was like, we got to go. We got to go. And, I did a couple of episodes about Bigfoot and all this stuff during Halloween, because it's just kind of like the weird outdoors stuff. And I met the guy that runs the place. Like, I walked in and I was like going to buy a T-shirt and leave. They had a museum and all this stuff. And then the ladies, I was like, yeah, I'm here. I just wanted to check it out. She's like, oh, we had the owner come up. and apparently this dude is like on like all the Bigfoot shows on History Channel. He's like all over like these Bigfoot shows. And like I talked to this dude for like a half hour. He like took us through the museum. He showed me all these footprints he did. So I gotta ask you, dude, what's your opinion on the skunk ape in Florida? I gotta know because you're a Floridian. Everybody knows about it. Ape. It's Dave.
Yeah,
I think his name was Dave.
Well, here's the thing, man. I don't know a whole lot about the skunk ape, but when you're doing your Sasquatch episodes, your Bigfoot episodes, it got me thinking. You and James from the 4646 podcast, y'all both got me thinking about this character that my dad and my brother they were telling me about when I was a kid. I don't know if he's real or not, but he's called the Palmetto Man, and so it's a whole different like genre. So I grew up fearing the Palmetto Man. I didn't grow up fearing the skunk ape dude or whatever. But I will say that in the last year or so, my mind has been expanded a little bit towards that topic. I used to think, no way, dude, it's just a myth, you know. But there's some pretty convincing firsthand experiences, and these people are either really great storytellers or they really saw something. So I mean, anything's possible at this point.
Yeah, it was a really fun series, and I would highly encourage you, if you do a Halloween episode, to go down that path, because I was like this. It was like the same for me. I just like to be completely honest. James and I had a competition. We were seeing who could get more Bigfoot episodes for the month of October, and it was super fun. I was scrambling, dude. Like some of those episodes, I was like editing like the night before they were supposed to come out because the guests they were so hard to find, and it was so much fun.
Like Bigfoot.
Yeah, I wanted to get Bigfoot on the podcast, but he's just too hard to find. So I just wanted to get your 2 cents on that. So the other part of Florida, there's 2 parts to Florida in the mind of every non-Floridian. There's the coast and there is the Everglades. That's all that exists. So I was kind of shocked being on the coast. Again, all the animals. I mean, you got bars. There's just bars, condos, hotels, and then the amount I walked out where we were at. We stayed at this place. I don't know what the heck it was called. Across there was like a little sandbar right outside of it. So we're on like Fort Myers Beach, which is basically a little island across from the mainland, and then there's a little sandbar out further from that. And it was every day at like noon. The tide would go out so far that you could pretty much walk out to it. It was like knee deep. So I packed up my camera equipment. I walked across the water to this sandbar. It was disgusting. The ocean freaks me out. I was like probably like mid calf deep in like this muddy. It wasn't mud. It was sand. It like sunk down. And I was like, I'm going to step on something that's going to bite my foot off or kill me or sting me. And it was probably like a 20-foot walk. I go out there and like you can see pelicans all day long. Like we don't have pelicans up here. They've come up in migratory season sometimes for a few days. But I was out there and I was trying to take pictures of these pelicans with my camera, and there was like I want to say like 20 different types of birds out on this little sandbar thing. Like just completely mind-blowing. Again, the amount of freaking animals in Florida. I don't know what it is. You guys have, I mean, like the amount of species we have here is pretty good, but like down there, I was just like completely mind blown. So you go out to the ocean a lot, or are you just kind of more of an inland guy?
No, I mean, we go out to the beach whenever the weather's nice, and the kids like to go out there and play, and me and my wife go whenever we get a chance to go on some day dates and things like that. We'll go out and hang out for the day. But like, when I'm out in the water, I think I posted a survey a while back. I think it was back in the summertime about like freshwater, saltwater, and people would freak out about it. And there's so many people that feel like you do about the ocean that just like it terrifies them or like it really freaks them out. And it's because it's so big and there's so many different things out there. But like I've never really had any kind of really freaky experience other than like being out there in a shadow kind of passing under the water. And you would think that, oh no, it's a shark. But we have manatee down here, we have dolphin, and those types of things are large and they cast big shadows. So I mean, like, you know, there's definitely dangerous stuff out there. I'm really not, you know, too freaked out about the ocean. I don't want to just like be out roaming, you know, in open waters, but you know, going to the beach, I really like doing that. I like to, you know, coast fish where you kind of wade out and just cast out. That's pretty fun. And you can catch some, you know, small fish or some small sharks whenever you do that, which is cool. But you're right. I mean, there's just so many different types of animals and different species and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of like aqua life too, obviously, in the ocean, you know, stingrays and all kinds of fish and manta rays and things like that. So it's cool. It's a neat change of pace, you know, like you kind of, when I was growing up, I used to think of like, what's the perfect place to live? And I was always like, well, I want to be close to the mountains and I want to be in snow, but like, I also like the beach a lot. So I was like, California is a place to be. I wouldn't move to California, like if my life depended on it right now, but, you know, just trying to like encompass all of the different landscapes and stuff. Like I definitely am a Florida boy at heart when it comes to that. I do have a love for the beach. There's some really cool trails, more up towards like the Tampa area. I think there was actually a couple down near close to where you guys were, but they're like coastal trails where you can go out. They have preserves. Like it's more of like marshy type wetland, like salt wetland kind of stuff out towards the coast. They got you know, different sandy trails you can go on out there, and those are cool. There's one that I went to down in Bradenton a few months ago that I really liked a lot. It was kind of cool. It reminded me of like a, you know, a tropical scene because it's like you're literally like hiking in between like these mangrove trees and stuff that are really overgrown, and so it's a really tight path, which I thought was really cool. And it's literally right on the water. I mean, it's like where the tide goes out, that's the trail. So it's pretty neat. But you know, it varies depending on the time of year and depending on like what I'm up to. I do a lot of inland stuff. There's a lot of like pine and palmetto and equestrian type land and stuff in central Florida and like inland. And those prairies are just awesome to go walk through. You know, just vast open grass with like palmettos and pine trees in the distance, and then like, you know, random trees in the middle of fields and stuff. It's really pretty out there and it's peaceful. So I like to do that kind of stuff. And the Florida Trail has a lot of that. I haven't done a lot of the Florida Trail, but it has a lot of those types of landscapes where you just kind of like, you go through swamp and then it like goes into a sandy like palmetto type trail and then opens up just like a field and there's just open air. You know, it's such a cool, like varying landscape through there. And it's all Florida. I mean, to me, like that's what I grew up around. It's a unique landscape to the area, but you know, just like other sections of the AT, you know, there's really heavily wooded places, there's really damp and moist places, and really misty, smoky type places, and then you get up to a ridgetop and it's like open vista, you know, or like a meadow, you know. It's just, I love that. I love when there's a lot of variations in the landscape and stuff. And so Florida offers that. I mean, I would love to do the Florida Trail. I don't think it's that much to bite off. The only thing that would be a problem is there's a lot of it that goes through like wading water, like shin deep or ankle deep, and that's like snake heaven right there. And I don't know about that. So
that's what I was gonna say. I was like, instead of meeting up in the middle somewhere, I want to fly down there and do a section of the Florida Trail, because I've actually seen a surge of people that I've either met from the Appalachian Trail or that I kind of like knew from along the way. And just on Instagram and Facebook, I've seen a lot of people kind of doing the Florida Trail in sections. And I was like, it would be cool for me from being in Ohio. Like from Ohio to do the Appalachian Trail isn't that big of a stretch because it's like, it's still mountains and
yeah,
there's no wading in ankle to knee deep water with alligators and snakes is like the most awful thing I can like possibly think of. So like to do that and conquer that fear and get over that would be super awesome to me, just because like I don't want anything to do with that. So that like makes me want to do it even more.
Yeah.
So
Well, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
I mean, I don't know anything about the Florida Trail other than it exists, and like it's probably terrifying.
Yeah, well, like I think honestly, a lot of people start it like now or shortly after the first of the year because that's our coldest point of the year, and it's the most enjoyable. If you tried to do it like later on in spring or summertime, it would be absolutely miserable. I mean, the heat, the humidity, the rain, the mosquitoes. I mean, it would be terrible. But there's several folks that I've contacted or got in contact with here recently in the last 6 months or so that are big supporters, big advocates of the Florida Trail, and I showed an interest in it and they reached out. So like that's cool. There's a community for that too. Though your comparison of the Florida Trail is kind of like where I'm at with like the Continental Divide. Like I want to go out there. I want to conquer these big mountains. I want to like be worried about grizzly bears, like that kind of stuff. That freaks my wife and my mom out when I talk like that. But like that's kind of the equivalent. I feel the same way about those trails out there. Like the Appalachian Trail is kind of like close to my backyard. Georgia's the next state up, and it's only 8 hours to get to there, kind of thing. So it's close enough, but to go out west, and even the Pacific Crest, like those would be really cool too. But I have a lot of respect for that area and just I've been out to Colorado once and it was in the wintertime. I can't wait to go back in the spring and summer. It's just so beautiful out there. So
yeah, that's usually one of my last questions I ask before we wrap things up is if you had your dream destination post COVID lockdown, all this crap that's going on in the world, where would you go to backpack, kayak, whatever? Where would be the first place you go? Unlimited money, unlimited time. You could go there for as long as you wanted.
Yeah. Last time I said Mordor in New Zealand. But I think realistically, Canada, I mean, there's just so many really cool places up there that, it's doable. It's connected to the country. So, take a flight up there and hit some of those parks up there. Banff is a huge one on the top of my bucket list. I want to go to Jasper, some of those areas up there. I think that'd be really, really cool. One thing, so this past year, I talked my wife into the idea of us getting a school bus and doing a conversion to a school.
Oh, yeah.
And she's on board. I mean, we haven't done it yet, but like that's probably going to be one of the 2021 projects if I can pull that off. At least getting the bus and like starting it. But like in game with that is doing like a podcast tour around like national parks, and I want to hit up in Canada too and do some tour up there, and then just meet cool people, interview them, talk about the area that we're in, and that kind of stuff. So that's like long-term trail connection plans. But if I could get up to Canada in a heartbeat without a problem, I'd do that. What about you?
Yeah. So we were actually my cousin. She's graduating college, and she asked my wife and I to go to Banff this next year. And we're sitting here like twiddling our thumbs, like, can we go? Like, we don't know if it's going to be allowed, what's going on because of the state of the world. But we were supposed to go. Like, we had it planned out. We were going to get this place. Yeah. We were going to get some Airbnb kind of stuff, hang out there for like 2 weeks, like max out all my vacation time, just go to Banff. So it's kind of up in the air. All things pending. We were talking about going to possibly Idaho, which is a super underrated outdoor state. There's some sweet stuff in Idaho. I had a buddy go out there. My friend Kyle, who's been on the podcast in the past, him and his wife went out and did like a horse packing trip. That's like constantly digging at my brain. Like I really want to do it. It was like I think it was like 5 days or 3 days. Like they had a guide. They went out on horseback. They fly fished. He made them all their food and stuff. It was just kind of like luxury / rugged at the same time. But yeah, I would go anywhere at this point. With the state of how things are going. But yeah, man, I think we're on the same page. When you said Banff, I was like, that's like picturesque, quality, scenic, everything. Yeah. So maybe
for sure.
swing by Ohio on your way up there with your bus. Pick me up. I'll go with you, and we'll do a podcast tour. I'll run your audio for you and sit back and shut up and let you do all the talking. So, before we
no, man,
sign off,
I need you to talk. I'm boring.
No, absolutely not. Before we sign off here, why don't you let people know where to find you, like your social media stuff and your podcast, and maybe give us any plans you have for next year? Because I really do like your podcast. It's a great podcast. You're like more calm and reserved. I'm a big loudmouth, like, hey, all the time. And you're kind of like an internalized thinker with big ideas. So, yeah, let everybody know where to find you, Tim.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at The Trail Connection. That's primarily where I post a lot of pictures and kind of deep thoughts, for surrounding the photos. Our podcast is available on any major platform that you listen to, your favorite host. You can find us at The Trail Connection, or just search Tim Garland and it'll pop up. Be sure to give it a rate and subscription if you can. We're on YouTube as well. And this year has been a little tough. It's been hard to get consistency just with everything that's been going on. And, the last episode that we did on my channel, which was episode 18, if you want to check that out, I talked a little bit about, some of the grand plans that I had. My show is more of excursion-based shows, so you hear a lot of nature sounds in the background and stuff. And so 2021 is going to be big for excursions. I got several trips planned. I'm working right now to kind of get a guest lineup that's pretty deep so I don't run into issues of scheduling and that kind of stuff. And just trying to be more consistent about the content coming out and then also the planning of it as well. So, the stuff that you'll be seeing coming out next year, we're going to do. My last episode this year is going to be a beach camping trip. Finally, I'm going to be doing that to wrap up season 1. Season 2 we'll kick off. I'm trying to get connected with some more AT hikers. There's one in particular. I'm not going to reveal it yet because I haven't locked the guest in, but he's a pretty big name. He's got his own show and a pretty big show as well. So I'm really pumped to try to get that guy on the show. And then I got some other family friends that were big influencers to me growing up. They're older than me that I'm going to try to get on the show as well. So I'm going to be taking some trips out west, looking to get out to Utah and do some of the parks out there. My wife and I want to go to the Grand Canyon. So I don't know how much of that stuff we're going to get to get on the books, but I mean, we've got big plans for that. And I'm definitely going to be hitting up some more parts of the AT. My dad is from Virginia, so we're going to hit up a section in Virginia and do another episode together, which I'm really, really pumped about. And so I'm just going to be focusing on that, man, trying to bridge the gap a little bit more with some other AT hikers and get some, spread my wings a little bit and get out into some other areas of the country. I also got another fellow out in Texas that's been wanting to do a collaboration, so I'll be looking to get out there and do a Texas episode as well. So that's kind of what we got going on, man.
Sounds like you got a busy year ahead of you. Yeah.
Yeah, but Paul, man, I really appreciate the invite twice now to collaborate. And you got a great thing going. I really love your show too. It's really high energy. The topic and the guests are always really great and entertaining. So to any of my listeners that are following along and checking this episode out, be sure to go check out the Aptitude Outdoors podcast as well, because it's a good one.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. We will definitely keep in touch, and I promise you, one of these years, hopefully we can get together and do that stupid Walmart challenge, because I've been wanting to do that forever. So yeah. Everybody go check out Tim's podcast, Trail Connection. We had his last episode was my episode with him. So thank you, Tim, for coming on. I can't wait to meet up in person, and I'll see you later, man.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this episode of the Aptitude Outdoors Podcast here on YouTube. If you can, go down below and hit that subscribe button. I want to thank Tim Garland for coming on of the Trail Connection and chatting with me about all things outdoors. If you can, go and follow Tim on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all that fun stuff. Check out his podcast. It's good quality stuff. Tim's an awesome dude. And thanks for hanging in there. I can't wait to see you all again next time.
This distinction between working and non-working lands seems to me to be at the absolute center of the dilemma. There has been a tendency in environmentalism often to privilege the non-working lands as the most worth saving, the most natural, the places where nature and its systems and creatures are most free. We need an image of the just, the beautiful, the honorable harvest. This must lie at the core of a humanist environmentalism. We need ways of talking about the landscapes that we use that are much subtler than the crude use, non-use, fallen, unfallen, pristine, profane, wild, non-wild dualisms permit us to observe. We must, I would say, reclaim wise use as a core environmentalist mission.